Good morning students. This is 12th class biology, lecture 4 of chapter molecular basis of inheritance. So topics that we will do today are Michelson and Stahel experiment, Taylor's experiment, DNA replication machinery and enzymes, and transcription. So let's start with Michelson and Stahel experiment. So this experiment was done by Matthew Michelson and Franklin Stahel in 1958, which supported Watson and Crick's hypothesis that DNA replication was semi-conservative. As you know, in last lecture I told you that Watson and Crick gave a hypothesis for the possible mode of DNA replication. They said that DNA replication is semi-conservative. So it was experimentally proved by Michelson and Stahel. So you can say this is the experiment to prove semi-conservative mode of DNA replication. So these are steps of their experiment. First is they grew E. coli in a medium containing NH4Cl having N15, means this is one isotope of nitrogen and this is called heavy isotope of nitrogen. So they first of all they grew E. coli for several generations in this medium in which nitrogen heavy isotope was present as the only nitrogen source for many generations. The result was that N15, that is heavy isotope of nitrogen, was incorporated into newly synthesized DNA. As you know, nitrogen is a nitrogenous bases are present in DNA, so you can say nitrogen is a part of DNA. Okay, so due to this growing of E. coli on this medium, this heavy isotope of nitrogen get incorporated in the DNA strands. This heavy DNA molecule could be distinguished from the normal DNA by centrifugation in cesium chloride density gradient. So this is a method of centrifugation, and here normal type of DNA can be distinguished from heavy type of DNA. Normal type means where the normal isotope of nitrogen is present, and it can be distinguished from the heavy DNA means where the heavy isotope of nitrogen, that is N15, is present. After that they transferred these cells into a medium with normal nitrogen isotope, okay, in normal NH4Cl medium. In normal NH4Cl medium means that was having normal isotope of nitrogen, that is N14. So see here, this is N15 means heavy isotope of nitrogen, and this is N14 means light isotope of nitrogen that is normally present in DNA, in E. coli DNA. And this is heavy isotope of nitrogen on which Michelson and Stahel grew E. coli for several generations, and that's why it got incorporated. Here this is cesium chloride density centrifugation, where N15 containing DNA makes a band on the lower side of the tube, okay, because its density is heavier. Okay, it is heavier than N14, so its density is more than N14, that's why it's make a band on the lower side, and this is N14 which is lighter than N15, that's why this band is on upper side. See, this is experiment of Michelson and Stahel. Here you can see that after the growing of E. coli on N15 containing medium for several generations, when density centrifugation was done, then Michelson and Stahel found a band at, near the bottom of the centrifuge, tube, and this band was because of the heavy DNA, or you can say DNA having heavy isotope of nitrogen, or you can say it was because this band was present because of the high density. Then after the 20 minutes, means when these E. coli were transferred to the N14 containing medium, then you know E. coli duplication time is 20 minutes. Okay, that after 20 minutes again density centrifugation was done, and they found that there was a band of intermediate density. means the DNA was hybrid DNA. It was neither heavy, it was neither having a heavy density, you can say, neither lighter. Okay, it was having an intermediate density, and that's why this band was present in the center, and this band was showing hybrid type of DNA. Again, after the 40 minutes, Michelson and Strehel found two bands, okay, one of light density and one of hybrid type, or you can say of intermediate type of density, which was showing hybrid type of DNA, and another was which was of light density was showing light type of DNA, means containing N14. So they thought about it, that how is it possible. Then they gave the experimental proof that first of all, when they grew the E. coli on the N15 containing medium, N15 got incorporated on both strands of DNA, and that's why here these both strands of DNA are of brown color, means these are containing N15. Okay, that nitrogen is of heavy isotope. Then it was transferred on the N14 containing medium, and when it will replicate semi-conservatively, these two strands of the DNA will get separate and new strands will be formed with both the parental strands, and that's why this hybrid type of DNA will be formed having intermediate density, because here one of the strand will have the heavy isotope of nitrogen and another strand, which is of green color, will have the light isotope of nitrogen, and that's why this DNA will be called hybrid DNA. And such a DNA will not have high density, you can say, or it will not have light density as well. Its density will be intermediates. That's why this band is coming, okay, for the hybrid DNA. Then again, after the 40 minutes, what will happen? This DNA will replicate again, okay, and here you can see if both these strands will get separate, because medium is now N14 containing medium, okay. So when these both strands will get separate, both the strands will act as parental strands, okay, and new strands will be formed with both these strands, taking these as the template strands, okay. So here this along with one of these strands, means this green one having the light isotope of nitrogen, this type of DNA will be formed, means both the strands will be of light type, and then these two will be formed of hybrid type, where one strand will be of parental type, you can say, will have the heavy isotope of nitrogen, and another strand will have the light isotope of nitrogen, okay. So here two bands were observed, one band for the light DNA and another band for the hybrid type of DNA. As you can see here, two hybrid DNAs are forming, okay, and two light DNAs are forming. Now, based on these observations, based on this experiment, Michelson and Strehel concluded that DNA molecules can replicate semi-conservatively. Taylor's experiment is your next topic. Taylor in 1958 also demonstrated the semi-conservative mode of replication with some experiments, and they worked on the root tip cells of Visia faba. Visia faba is known as broad beans, okay, that is scientific name for the broad beans. After the incorporation of radioactive thymidine, so how they did their experiment, they grew the root tip cells of Visia faba for several generations in radioactive thymidine containing medium, okay, and this radioactive thymidine will then get incorporated in the strands of DNA, okay. The root tip were then transferred to the unlabeled medium containing colchicine, and on the basis of that difference, the radioactivity in the thymidine, either it is present or not present, they proved the semi-conservative mode of DNA replication in eukaryotic cells, you can say. Michelson and Strehel proved this semi-conservative mode of DNA replication in prokaryotes, and Taylor proved it in eukaryotes. Next topic is DNA replication. The process by which a double-stranded DNA molecule is copied to produce two identical DNA molecules is called DNA replication. So here these are enzymes of DNA replications. So enzyme DNA polymerase. And what is function of this DNA polymerase? Synthesize DNA from deoxyribonucleotides. Deoxyribonucleotides are, you can say, these are substrates, and these will add together, join together to form a DNA strand, or to form a polynucleotide chain, you can say. And who synthesize this DNA from these deoxyribonucleotides? DNA polymerase. So these are known as building blocks of DNA. These deoxyribonucleotides are known as building blocks of DNA. With the help of these, DNA polymerase makes the DNA. Then second enzyme is DNA ligase, and function of this enzyme is joining of DNA strands together by catalyzing the formation of a phosphodiester bond. As you know, the phosphodiester bond is present between two deoxyribonucleotides to make a polynucleotide chain. So how that phosphodiester bond is formed? DNA ligase enzyme form that bond. Next enzyme is DNA helicase, and DNA helicase enzyme separate the double-stranded DNA into single strands, allowing each strand to be copied. Okay, here this helicase enzyme will separate the DNA strands so that each strand can act as a template strand to form the new strand. Then next enzyme is topoisomerase. As you know that DNA is a double helical structure of DNA is like a rope. Okay, when you open up a rope from one end, then supercoils are formed on its upper end. Okay, those are called negative supercoiling. You can try it at home. You just try to open up a rope from one end. You will see that there will be negative supercoiling on another end. So to remove that negative supercoiling, topoisomerase enzyme is present here. So topoisomerase work on double-stranded DNA to relieve supercoiling. Okay, then single-stranded binding protein. This protein binds to the single-stranded region. Once the helicase has done its function, it has separated two strands of DNA. Then to maintain these two strands of DNA separated, single-stranded binding protein work here. This protein binds to the single strands of the DNA, okay, and keep these separated. Now let's do about the process of replication. So first step of replication is formation of replication fork. Before DNA can be replicated, the double-stranded DNA molecule must be unzipped, or you can say these should be separated into two single strands. Okay, and enzyme DNA helicase disrupts the hydrogen bonding between base pairs. As you know, base pairs are present in two strands of DNA. Okay, and these nitrogenous bases are making hydrogen bonds. Okay, double bond and triple bonds. So these hydrogen bonds are broken by DNA helicase enzyme, so that these two strands can get separate. Okay, and these separated strands will make a Y-shaped structure, and this structure will be called replication fork. This area will be the template for the replication to begin. So you can see here, this is a double-stranded DNA, and here from this region these two strands of DNA have been separated. Okay, these are nitrogenous bases, this one and these are nitrogenous bases, and these nitrogenous bases are joined together like this by hydrogen bonds. Okay, and now these hydrogen bonds are broken by enzyme DNA helicase, and here you can see by breaking of hydrogen bonds these two strands have been separated. So this Y-shaped structure is formed here, and this Y-shaped structure is called replication fork. Now these two strands will act as templates and replication process can be started. So second step will be, before second step, you see, as you have seen, two strands are formed here, and as you know that two strands of DNA are anti-parallel to each other. Okay, so one strand is oriented in 3' to 5' direction and another is in 5' to 3' direction. Okay, so the strand which is in 3' to 5' direction will be called leading strand, while the other, that is having direction 5' to 3' will be called lagging strand. Okay, now second step is primer binding. Once the DNA strand have been separated, a short piece of RNA called a primer binds to the 3' end of the strand. Okay, where to the 3' end? Because DNA polymerase can act only in one direction, 5' to 3' direction. So here DNA polymerase cannot start the replication process itself. It needs a primer first. Okay, so here RNA primer means a short piece of RNA is attached here at the 3' end of the strand. Okay, at the 3' end of both the strands. So the primer always binds as the starting point for the replication. Primers are generated by the enzyme DNA primase. So this is one more enzyme here which generate RNA primers. Now third step is elongation. Enzymes known as DNA polymerase are responsible for creating the new strands by a process called elongation. Okay, so here DNA polymerase enzyme will start acting, okay, after the attachment of RNA primer, because replication proceeds in 5' to 3 direction only. Okay, because this RNA polymerase can polymerize the new DNA strand only in 5' to 3' direction. On the leading strand, the newly formed strand is continuous. That's why, as you know, that leading strand, as I have told you in previous slide, that leading strand is one that is having polarity 3' to 5'. Okay, so complementary strand will be formed by the action of DNA polymerase, and it can act only in 5' to 3' direction. Okay, so this leading strand will be continuous. Okay, but the lagging strand, which is having polarity 5' to 3' direction, the DNA polymerase add pieces of DNA. Okay, it will not be a continuous process. Here the DNA pieces will be added, and these DNA pieces will be called Okazaki fragments. Okay, this process of replication is discontinuous as the newly created fragments are disjointed. See here, this is a double-stranded DNA, and these two strands have been separated by the action of helicase enzyme. Helicase enzyme works here and will separate these two strands of DNA. Okay, so one strand is having the polarity 3' to 5', and this strand will be called leading strand, and another strand having polarity 5' to 3' will be called lagging strand. Now what happened, this complete length of DNA doesn't get separate at once by the action of helicase enzyme, because this is very energy consuming process. Means separation of two strands of DNA is very energy consuming process. That's why it can't get separate at once. Okay, only a small segment of DNA gets separate at one time, and replication starts simultaneously. So what happened when a small segment of DNA gets separate, these primers are added here. This dark blue colored portion is showing primer here. Okay, so this primer will get attached here, and DNA polymerase start its action. Okay, and as you know, DNA polymerase can act only in one direction, that is 5' to 3' direction. So here, along with the leading strand, this DNA polymerase start acting like in this direction. Okay, and will form a continuous strand in 5' to 3' direction. But here with the another strand, because the polarity of this strand is 5' to 3', but DNA polymerase can act only in 5' to 3' direction. That's why primer is added here, okay, to form a new strand in 5' to 3' direction, so that DNA polymerase can form this new strand in 5' to 3' direction. As you can see here, this fragment is having polarity 5' to 3', because DNA polymerase can act only in this direction. DNA polymerase cannot form a strand in opposite direction, you can say in this direction, 3 prime to 5 prime. Okay, so here what happened, this small segment of DNA when gets separated, then this primer will be added here and will form a small segment of DNA, you can say a new strand of DNA will be formed here. But here this template strand will get finished. Okay, so this newly formed strand will also get finished here. Okay, then again when a next segment of DNA will get separate due to action of helicase enzyme, another RNA primer will get attached here. Okay, and then DNA polymerase will start its action like this. Okay, and this new fragment of DNA will be formed. Again when next segment of DNA gets separated, a next primer will be added here and DNA polymerase will start its action like this. That's why these fragments of DNA will be formed here, as you can see. Okay, this process can't be continuous process because this complete length of DNA is not separating at one time. Okay, as this small segment of DNA will get separate, a small fragment of new strand will be formed, then again a small fragment will be formed, and then again. So like this, these fragments will be formed here, and these fragments will be called Okazaki fragments. And this is the reason that one of the strand of DNA, those are newly formed strand, you can say, is continuous, and another strand is discontinuous, having Okazaki fragments. Later on, these Okazaki fragments are joined by enzyme DNA ligase. Okay, and this strand will also become continuous. Right? So here you can see the complete process of replication. So in first step, what will happen? Helicase enzyme will work here. Okay, and will separate the two strands of DNA by breaking the hydrogen bonds. Then topoisomerase enzyme works here. Okay, you can say just about the helicase enzyme to remove the negative supercoiling. Right, then primers are added here. This is primer and this one is primer here. So many primers are present here in the discontinuous strand. Alright, so primer is added here. Then DNA polymerase synthesize the new strands of DNA, continuous as well as discontinuous, and it can synthesize the new strand of DNA in 5 prime to 3 prime direction. Okay, then one more enzyme was there, that was DNA ligase. So DNA ligase then join these fragments of DNA, you can say it join these Okazaki fragments to make a continuous strand of DNA. Now you can say after the elongation, that was third step of replication, next step is termination. Once both the continuous and discontinuous strands are formed, an enzyme called exonuclease, okay, one more enzyme is here, that is called exonuclease. It will remove all the RNA primers, okay, from the original strands. Another enzyme called DNA ligase joins the Okazaki fragments to form a unified strand. In the end, replication produces 2 DNA molecules, each with one strand from the parent molecule and one new strand, as it was said in the semi-conservative mode of DNA replication. Now, some other things about the enzyme DNA polymerase. This DNA polymerase enzyme is very highly efficient, okay, because it polymerize the new strand of DNA at a high rate, okay, and polymerization rate of DNA polymerase in E. coli is 2000 base pairs per second, and this DNA polymerase also work with high accuracy, okay, because if there will be some if accuracy will not be there, then mutations will occur in the DNA, okay, and which are not allowed during the replication process. So this DNA polymerase works with very high accuracy. Then next thing, proofreading. Once the DNA polymerase has done its action, means it has polymerizes the new strands of DNA, it is cross-checked, okay, and DNA polymerase itself do the proofreading, you can say cross-checking of that new strand of DNA, whether it is right or not. Okay, and that you can say that that cross checking is called proofreading. Okay, and that is done in 3 prime to 5 prime direction. As for the polymerization, this DNA polymerase act in 5 prime to 3 prime direction. Then for the proofreading, it comes back from 3 prime to 5 prime direction, you can say. Next thing here, deoxyribonucleoside triphosphate acts as the substrate for the formation of new strands of DNA. So here you see about the dual role of deoxyribonucleoside triphosphate. So first role is that these are building blocks for the DNA strand, or you can say these act as the substrate for the formation of polynucleotide chain, right? And another thing, because this polymerization, you can say the formation of polynucleotide chain is a energy consuming process. That's why there is need of energy also for the joining of many nucleotides together. So from where this energy come? This also comes from the deoxyribonucleoside triphosphates. So as these are present in the form of ATP and GTP, so here you can say adenine triphosphate. Okay, so here these two phosphates are released here. Adenine monophosphate is only used for the formation of a nucleotide chain. Okay, and terminal 2 phosphates are released here and provide the energy for the process. So here in case of adenine triphosphate or guanine triphosphate, 2 phosphates will be released and will provide for the formation of a chain of polynucleotide, or you can say formation of new strand of DNA. The next topic is transcription. So transcription is a process in which a DNA sequence is copied, or you can say transcribed, to make an RNA molecule by enzyme RNA polymerase. As for the formation of new strand of DNA, enzyme DNA polymerase works, and here for the formation of RNA molecule from the DNA, enzyme RNA polymerase works. Okay, it uses one of the DNA strands. As you know, DNA is double stranded structure, so one of the DNA strand is used here as a template to make a new complementary RNA molecule. So here also a complementary strand is made. Okay, and here only one strand of DNA is used to make the complementary RNA molecule. Only one difference is there. While making the complementary RNA molecule, thymine is replaced by uracil. Okay, as you know, in the case of DNA, thymine is added opposite of the adenine, but here in place of thymine, uracil is added in case of RNA. So now how this transcription process is different from replication process? First thing, only a segment of DNA is copied in one time. Okay, as in replication, if the process of replication starts, okay, then the complete length of DNA, you can say the whole length of DNA will get duplicated at one time. Okay, but here in case of transcription, only a segment of DNA is copied. Then this process of transcription will get stopped. Okay, and will start again from the you can say by the same process. The next thing that is different is only one strand of DNA is copied in case of transcription, but you know, in the replication both strands of DNA are copied. Now based on these topics, your homework is: first question, if E. coli was allowed to grow for 80 minutes, then what would be the proportion of light and hybrid densities DNA molecule? Second question, differentiate leading and lagging strand. Third question, what is replication fork? Now I gave you question number 5 and 7 of NCERT as homework in previous lecture. So answer of those questions are here. Answer of question number 5 is: Watson and Crick observed that two strands of DNA are antiparallel and complementary to each other with respect to their base sequences. Okay, this type of arrangement in DNA molecule led to the hypothesis that DNA replication is semi-conservative. So you can say hypothesis for the semi-conservative mode of DNA replication was given on the basis of complementarity between two strands of DNA and their base pairing. So it means that double-stranded DNA molecule separates, and then each of the separated strand acts as a template for the synthesis of new complementary strand. The next question was how Hershey and Chase experimentally proved that DNA is genetic material and not protein. Okay, so Hershey and Chase worked with the bacteriophage, that is a virus that infect E. coli, to prove that DNA is genetic material. First of all, they used different radioactive isotopes to label DNA and protein coat of the bacteriophage. They grew some bacteriophages on a medium containing radioactive phosphorus to identify DNA, because phosphorus will get incorporate into the DNA. Okay, so DNA will become radioactive, and some on medium containing radioactive sulfur to identify the protein, because this sulfur will make the protein radioactive. Then these radioactive labeled phases were allowed to infect bacteria. In the first step, you can say infection. Okay, after infection, the protein coat of the bacteriophage was separated from the bacterial cell by blending. So second step was blending, in which bacteriophages were separated from the bacterial cell and then subjected to the process of centrifugation. Since the protein coat was lighter, it was found in supernatant, while the infected bacteria got settled at the bottom of the centrifuge tube. Hence, it was proved that DNA is genetic material, as it was transferred from the virus to the bacteria.